suppose you are told to solve the equation square root of x plus 1 plus square root of 5x plus 1 equals 2 of the square root of x plus 6. How do you go about it? This equation is called equation involving radicals because of the square root sign. So in solving this equation, you must be really careful with the square root sign. Because we are dealing with real numbers, we are going to limit ourselves to the fact that the square root of x plus 1, the square root of 5x plus 1, and the square root of x plus 6 are basically real number. In fact, we limit ourselves to the fact that these square roots are non-negative. They are either positive or 0. Now, how do you solve this equation? First, you square both sides. But you want to note that if, for instance, you have, say, letter A and B, small letters, if they are real number, for instance, and their sum, which of course must be a real number, is C, for instance, then we note the standard result that A plus B, when we square the sum, we still get C squared. All right. So if you do so, you observe that upon squaring this equation, we get something of this form. Say the square of the sum of the square root that we are going to write here. Must give the square of the right hand side, which we have 2 of the square root of x plus 6. Okay, now we also want to note that you can expand the square of this sum. And if you expand the square of the sum, you get a squared plus b squared plus 2ab. All right, with that information, that means this expression here can be expanded. And if you expand that, you get the square of the square root of x plus 1 plus the square of the square root of 5x plus 1 plus 2, just as we have it here, of what? The square root of x plus 1 multiplying x 5x, I mean 5x plus 1. And we equate to the right hand side of the equation, which we remember is 2 of the square root of x plus 6 all squared. All right, what is the next stage? We want to note again that if I have a number which is real and non-negative, say D, for instance, which is real and non-negative, if I take the square root and then I square again, I get back D, okay? Within the limit of the fact that I'm working with operations with real number, I want to take D to be greater or equal to 0 so that the square root of d is well defined. So with that information, I can do the expansion. That is, I can expand the expression here using the information. So if I simplify, I'm going to have, let's look at it. We have x plus 1, that is this. Next will be what? 5x plus 1 plus we have 2 square root of x plus 1 multiplying square root of 5x plus 1. Okay, and then it will be equated to the right-hand side of the equation, which of course rule of indices allows the power 2 to affect this 2 and also affect this. Also, that is, we have 2 squared multiplying square root of x plus 6 all squared. Okay, the next stage, I want to note that the square root of a multiplying square root of b, you recall the rule of third, it will be square root of a multiplying b. So I'm going to apply that here. And of course, you know what this also will give. Simply put, it is x plus 6. We have mentioned this property earlier. Okay, so upon simplification, if I sum up this, I get what? I have 6x plus 2 plus 2. Using the rule of third I've mentioned, we have the square root of the product x plus 1, 5x plus 1. And this will be equated to the right-hand side. 2 squared is 4. Then I'm left with just x plus 6. Now we simplify further. And upon simplification, you can take this to the right-hand side of the equation to interact with this, knowing fully well that this is 4x plus 24, not so? And if you simplify that, you will observe that you get 2 square root of x plus 1, 5x plus 1 equal to the right-hand side, knowing that this will interact with the right-hand side of the equation, and then simplifying, we get minus 2x plus 22 plus 22. You can divide 2 by 2, and if you do so, you have x square root of x plus 1 multiplying 5x plus 1, which is equal to minus x plus 11. What do you do to remove this square root sign? You square both sides. If you square both sides, you observe that this is going to give you x plus 1 multiplying 5x plus 1, which of course, because I'm squaring both sides, I have minus x plus 11 squared. Now expand this expression. What do you have? You have 5x squared plus, you have 6x plus what? 1 is equal to, expand this, what do you get? You have x squared minus what? 22x plus 121. Very good. Collect like terms and simplify. You can collect like terms to the left-hand side and then equate the right to 0. And if you do so, you will get, what do you think? 5x squared minus x squared, isn't it? You have 4x squared and then 6x. The minus 22x becomes plus when it comes to the left-hand side. and that becomes what? Plus 28x. And then you have the 1, 2, 1 coming to the left-hand side, you have a minus. So 1 minus 1, 2, 1, you have minus 120 is equal to 0. You can divide through by 4, not so? If you do so, you have an implication that this will have x squared plus 7x minus 30 is equal to 0. That's if you divide through by 4. Okay, and if you simplify, you can simplify this expression, and you know, when you simplify, you can factorize. I mean, you know the factor of 30. What are the factors? 10 and 3. And precisely because we are dealing with minus 30, you can choose 10 and minus 3, because 10 minus 3 gives 7. So in that case, if you simplify through factorization, you have x plus 10 multiplying x minus 3, and that gives 0. For solution, you have the possible solution for this equation will be x equals minus 10 and x equals 3. These are the possible solutions. Now, at this point, it will be good to check which to use. Are you to choose the two values? Will it be correct? Or maybe just one? So we need to check which will be the solution. Remember, as mentioned earlier, we are dealing with strictly real numbers, and the square root I've mentioned that we want the square root of a number to be a real number. So what do? Consider the problem again. The problem is square root of x plus 1. We have to solve for x plus 5x plus 1 is equal to 2 of the square root of x plus 6. All right. So if you take x to be equal to minus 10, which is what we got earlier, you observe that we have the square root of x plus 1 will be square root of minus 9, because x in this case is what? Minus 10. And minus 10 plus 1, you get square root of minus 9. And this is not a real number. Okay? Not a real number. And we are not interested in that, actually. So if you try the same thing for square root of 5x plus 1, you observe that that will also not be a real number, and likewise this. So x equals minus 10 is not the solution we are interested in. What about the other solution? X equals 3. Can we try that? Let's see whether it will work. We have, if for instance, x equals 3, then you have square root of x plus 1 will be square root of 3 plus 1, which is 4. And that is simply 2. You can try that for square root of 5x plus 1. And what do you observe? You have 5 times 3, which is 15 plus 1, that's 16. And taking the square root of 16, you get 4. And also, if you try the other one, which is square root of x plus 6, in this case, what do we call x? X is 3, so we have 3 plus 6, that's 9, and that is equal to 3. So we want to confirm, will the left-hand side of the equation give the right-hand side, and then we can confirm that x equals 3 is the solution. So remember the left-hand side. The left-hand side of the equation, that is the problem given to us, is square root of x plus 1 plus square root of 5x plus 1. And if you observe, what do we get from the above computation? We said square root of x plus 1. When x is equal to 3, we got 2. And then for square root of 5x plus 1, when x is 3, we got 4. So we have 6 in this case. What about the other one? The right-hand side is 2 of the square root of x plus 6. And that is equal to 2 times, when x is 3, we got square root of x plus 3 to be equal to 3, and that is equal to what? 6. So we have the left-hand side of the equation really is equal to the right-hand side of the equation when x is equal to 3. Hence, the solution of the problem now of x plus 1 plus square root of 5x plus 1, which is 2 of the square root of x plus 6, is what? Is simply x equals 3.